Hey everybody, how's it going today? I hope you're well. I wanted to address something that I have found myself being asked a number of times, and that has to do with virtual environments in Python. I wanted to make this a quick, short video to maybe with some visuals to help explain exactly what a virtual environment is and why you should be using one. Are you interested? Me too. Let's jump into it. Okay, here I have before me two different graphics. One is the situation, which is probably most newer entry-level programmers, in which they're not using a virtual environment. The other in which someone is using a virtual environment. Let me explain a little bit more. Here we've got our computer. This is the big gray box is our computer. And here we have a list of our installed apps or software, Python being one of those and some other apps. And here we can see when we're developing an app in this particular case, anything that we need, any other additional libraries have to be installed to the core Python installation on our machine. Not exactly terrible, but in the event that we needed to use different versions of the same library, it becomes a real headache. You have to uninstall the version that you don't need and install the version that you do need, and just juggling that between when switching between applications can be pretty confusing, if not overwhelming, and can really just kind of slow down the workflow. That's where virtual environments are so powerful. Here we see another example. This is obviously the same computer. This has some installed apps and software on here. They have Python installed and some other apps. But here we see that they have got an application where they've got their scripts and additional libraries, but they have a virtual environment. All a virtual environment is basically a copy of what is installed on your computer, the Python version installed on your computer, and it's basically copied into a directory that lives inside of your application directory. And then you can activate this version of Python. You can tell your computer, hey, I don't want to use the installed version of Python for this app. I want to use this version of Python that lives in this directory. That means any libraries or any scripts that I'm running, I want it to use this version of Python. I want it to use this virtual environment. And that is nice because in the event that you maybe install a library, or maybe your Python gets just messed up, which does happen from time to time, especially when we're learning, right? It's very easy to just delete that venv directory and create a new one. And then you have a fresh copy of Python installed where you can then reinstall the libraries that you need to do and then run your application in a safe way. It also means that you can create a new virtual environment, a new venv directory inside of each app that you're developing. So that earlier case that I was talking about where one application needs one version of a library and another application needs a different version of that, that eliminates that problem. Since each application will have its own directory and its own virtual environment, that no longer becomes an issue. You simply switch directories and activate the appropriate virtual environment, and then you're off to the races. It makes development workflows a lot nicer and much more simple. Let's go through some examples now, and I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, here we've got our command prompt, and it's set up in our test directory. As you can see here in the File Explorer, we're in our test directory, and there's only one script in there called hello.py. Let's go ahead and check that script, make sure there's no malicious code in there. It imports requests, it prints hello YouTube. No, seems good to go to me. Now, what do we have currently installed? Not much, very few libraries. I talked about the benefits of a virtual environment, so let's go ahead and set one up, shall we? The only library that we need to install on our operating system version of Python is virtual env. Great, it's installed. Now we can create our own virtual environment by typing virtual env, and then we can say whatever we would like to name it. This is what you're going to call the virtual environment. Using venv is pretty standard practice in the community though, so we're going to go ahead and go with that. Bam, it's installed. As you can see, it has created the virtual environment for Python 3.10.2. And if we look up here, we see that it created a directory called venv for us. All right, fantastic. Okay, let's go ahead and activate our virtual environment. Lucky for us, it's pretty simple. You do the dot followed by the path to venv, scripts, activate. It's important to note that on Unix-based systems such as Mac or Linux, that the activate script lives in a different directory than on Windows. It is in the venv directory /bin/activate. And all that is a small file that tells your computer, hey, activate this virtual environment. It's very simple. Now we see that it says venv in parentheses before telling us where we're at on the computer. That's letting us know that we're using that specific virtual environment. Now we can do pip freeze, and we see there's nothing installed. Okay, let's go ahead and pip install requests because we know we need that library. And now we'll run python hello.py, and we see hello YouTube. Perfect. Now we're using a virtual environment, and that virtual environment is very specific to this application. If you want to deactivate it, it's just as easy as activating it. Type deactivate and you're done. Now that we've deactivated our virtual environment, let's go ahead and look and see. We'll do a pip freeze to see what libraries are installed, and requests is still not among them. That proves right there that having a virtual environment is a very powerful tool. You can have certain libraries installed to certain virtual environments, and it becomes very easy to manage. Let's say, for example, that we goofed up our virtual environment and we needed to create a new one. How could we do that? Well, it's pretty simple. We can go in here and we can just delete it. And now it's gone. So the libraries installed there are no longer there. Let's go ahead and create a new one. And let's activate it. And there we go. Now if we do pip freeze, there's nothing installed. We need to reinstall the library. And now we can run python hello.py, and we're back in working order in just that short amount of time. I hope this helps to explain exactly how powerful virtual environments can be and why you should be using one. I also hope those graphics at the beginning help to explain maybe a little bit more about what a virtual environment is and why it's so powerful and useful to you as a developer and how it can improve your workflows. I wanted to keep this pretty short, but I think this has gotten a little bit longer than I had intended. So in the words of our great friends, Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other, keep building cool things, keep doing cool things, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.